Welcome to the GetRealWealth.com radio show, where wealth means a lot more than just building a second stream of income. Listen and learn how 70% of the millionaires in America used real estate to create a lifestyle that most people only dream about. A lifestyle that includes good health, family, romance, travel, charity, and all the other parts of a balanced life. Now, here is your host, real estate investor and mentor, Steve Davis.
Good afternoon and welcome to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I am your host, Steve Davis, where as always we're talking about improving your quality of lifestyle by producing a second stream of income that meets and exceeds your wants and needs with real estate. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I know I usually spend like the first 3 or 4 minutes on this, but I've gotten some really what I consider urgent emails and forum posts that I want to address. I promise I will get to the subject that was on Facebook and LinkedIn and all the social media platforms, which is how to invest passively in Real Wealth Academy Syndicators deals. I'll get to that, but let me read this first email. I'm going to leave it anonymous because it was, one, because I don't think he meant this to be read on the radio. But it's a really neat question. He's a member of Real Wealth Academy. He says, I'm itching to get going. And I can tell you all the members are. I'm getting phone calls, texts, emails, when are we starting, when are we starting? And it's awful to answer, I don't know. You know, it's the COVID response hopefully will end at the end of this month. And then we'll be able to get back on our normal schedule for May. That would put the weekend class the last weekend in May, I believe. Actually, no, I do know the date of what it's scheduled for. Give me 1 second. It would be the 23rd and 24th of May with our grand opening on the 21st. But we'll keep, that could change. It just depends on the continuation of the COVID response. But he goes on to say that, as we discussed, I have to start with a flip. I'm a bit nervous about the market right now, but I'm so tired of day trading / gambling. I do not want to go back to my $13 an hour day job. So the question is, do you have a written plan for doing a flip? I'm a big list guy, especially when doing something new. I've read tons of books and have a general idea of what I need to do and in what order, but I trust you more than some author that I don't know. Okay, then there's some personal items I'll leave out. What can I do? What do I need to make it happen? Well, and again, I'm going to call this gentleman anonymous. I'm going to reply to this, but I hope he's listening. This is tough because one of the things that happens in my weekend class is I start with single family rental, and people expect me to start with wholesaling and flipping because that's the natural progression of a person that's starting with a challenge, such as I don't have a lot of money or I've got bad credit. You got to start wholesaling, then you can move into flipping, then you move into rentals, single family, and then you move into apartments. But the reason I start with single family rental first is because they're all the same. See, people try to make things more complex than they are. They think that a flip is quite different from a rental. It's not. You know what the difference is? When you're done with the rehab, you rent a rental. When you're done with the rehab, you sell a flip. That is literally the only difference between the two. Now, you do need more equity to flip than you do for rental. In other words, I may buy a property, a $200,000 house, $20,000, $25,000 below market and rent it out. But if I buy that thing $50,000, $60,000 below market you can bet I'm going to flip it. I'm not going to leave that equity in that house just sitting there. That would be considered moderately dead equity. Not as bad as having a home paid in full. That is dead equity. But if you've got $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 equity in a house, it's probably time to sell it and go buy 2 or 3 more. So I start off by talking about how to evaluate properties. Evaluating for evaluating for wholesaling, evaluating for flipping, evaluating for rental, guess what? Identical. There is no difference. Again, the only difference is when the rehab is complete, instead of renting it, you're selling it. So make sure, Anonymous, and everybody else listening, that you don't get too caught up in, oh, flipping's this mysterious thing. It's different from rental. It's different from this. It's not in the acquisition stage. Now, it's different after the rehab, meaning 1, you're selling it, 2, you're renting it. But between locating the deal and getting that rehab done, they're identical. You just have more equity in a flip than you do in a rental as a rule. So I don't want you to spend massive amounts of time thinking about it. I don't want you spending massive amounts of time putting together lists. It's very simple. Locate the deal, evaluate the deal. If it's a deal, fund the deal, close the deal, rehab the deal, and sell it. So if you want a list, I just gave you one. That's it. So again, be careful not to make this any harder than it is in your mind. It's very simple, and it's relatively easy to do. And the difference between a rental and a flip is always going to be the amount of equity that's in the deal. If you've got that house, and it's worth, of course, I like to flip. I better tell you this. I like to flip the $250,000 to $400,000 homes where I can make $50,000, $100,000, $200,000. I don't like flipping the $150,000 to $220,000 home, which is the home I tell you to rent. So it is different from that point of view. But you're going to look for, see, this is the thing. The reason this is hard for me to explain right now is because I just had a lady call me that she's picking up $70,000 equity in a $180,000 home. That's after purchase price, rehab, and closing costs. $70,000 equity. I said, you can rent this out if you want. You're going to make a lot of money, but you could sell it and go buy 3 more houses, 4 more houses, if you got lucky, especially with the COVID response causing a catastrophe inside the real estate market. So it really depends on the equity. And again, I like the $250,000 to $400,000 homes for flipping. I don't like to go above 400 because the days on market gets very, very long. So your holding costs are higher. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's very easy to flip those 250 to 400. We'll talk more after the break here on the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. You can call me at 281-558-KSEV. You're listening to AM 700, the voice of Texas. Thanks for listening. Did you know that 70% of the millionaires in America used real estate as their main investment vehicle? You can and should have some real estate in your portfolio. This is Steve Davis, host of the GetRealWealth.com radio show. Starting with bad credit and no money at age 27, I began investing in real estate. By 30, I was retired. I will be explaining this at a free 2-hour introductory workshop this month. If you would like to attend, go to GetRealWealth.com. That's GetRealWealth.com. Thank you for listening. Welcome back to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. If you've got a question for me, please join me now live on the air at 281-558-KSEV, 281-558-KSEV. So again, I'm talking about the mystique of flipping, especially for those of you that already know how to do rental, but maybe you've run out of money and you're sitting there going, wow, I got to save up for my next down payment. That's going to take me a year, 18 months or something like that. Hold on. Why don't you join Real Wealth Academy and let me teach you how to flip? Generate capital flipping and then go buy more rentals. See, when you run out of money, don't sit on your thumb. Get up. Go do something that you can generate more capital with. I've seen people, this has been a long time ago, but I've seen people flip 2, buy 3, flip 1, buy 1, flip 2, buy 3, and just they built their whole portfolio that way. And then the interesting thing for me was they kept flipping. Once they reached their cash flow goal from their rental properties, they realized that they enjoyed flipping. That was their passion. So they kept flipping as their job and didn't buy any more rentals. It was a pretty interesting person. So for Anonymous, I'm asking you, please be patient. If you want to make a list, here it is. It's locate the deal, evaluate the deal, fund the deal, close the deal, rehab the deal, and sell the deal. There's your flipping process. It's no different from rental. It's identical. The only difference is number 6. Instead of selling it, you're renting it. So stay patient. Keep reading those books that I've emailed you. Get on that list, download some audio, listen to audio. What you really should be working on between now and my weekend class is your mind. Work on your mind, your attitude, that reminds me. Okay, I'm done. So there's the answer to that question. I want you to bear with me when I say this. I'm going to explain it. Do you know that if anybody says anything negative to you, I want you to start literally ignoring it. Anything and everything that somebody says negative, ignore it. And the reason this is coming up is, I'll use my story. This was a story, I was going to tell you a story of a member, but let me tell you my story. 35 years ago, I had an uncle that failed at real estate investing. He bought 3 rent houses and lost all of them to foreclosure within a couple of years. And at a family picnic or something, I was probably 16, 17, maybe even younger. I remember hearing him say how bad the market was, how bad tenants were, how high the interest rate was. Never once did he say, man, I didn't know what I was doing. Boy, I mismanaged that. I goofed that up. See, people who say negative stuff are covering up their own personal responsibility almost all the time. Ignore them. There's a phrase out there, learn from other people's mistakes. So, in other words, listen to other people's negativity. That is a poor, I don't even think that's a middle class belief, but we'll say it's a poor and middle class belief. Learn from other people's mistakes. You know what the millionaires learn from? Other people's successes. What can you possibly learn from other people's mistakes? You can learn how to do it wrong. If you learn everything that doesn't work, does that guarantee you know what does work? No. So learning from other people's mistakes is fruitless. You need to be around successful people, positive people, and learn what does work. So be very cautious. The reason I wanted to get that into today's show is because the COVID response is starting to put the zap on people's heads. And people are getting depressed. They're getting negative. They're fearful. The financial side of it is also crushing them. And the weak are becoming negative. And they're sharing it. I mean, I'm talking to people that are just, I don't even know what the word is other than just freaking negative. And you're like, do you even want to be around somebody like that? You don't. I mean, I literally walk away from people like that. You have to. Because if you listen to them long enough, it can put the zap on your head. Now, if you're strong, it'll only last a short period, 5, 10, 15 minutes. But do you need that 15 minutes of negativity? No. Ignore anything negative. Anybody tells you you can't do something, ignore them. Remember the phrase, everybody says it's impossible until somebody does it. Everybody says it's impossible until somebody does it. So be very cautious in these times, because people are getting negged out and they're talking negative, and you've got to stay strong. You've got to stay positive, or you'll fall into their trap. You don't learn from other people's failures. You learn from other people's successes. Hang out with successful people, find out what they're doing, and go imitate them. All right, just a quick email, and then I'll move into the material I promised you. This is from a friend of mine, Patty. He says, is there a reading recommendation for setting up an LLC? And the answer is no. And the reason is, I read a book on LLCs. All it did was scare me to death, thinking I'm going to be sued for every single thing that occurs. I've been at this for 30 years. I've had one lawsuit on one of my properties, and that was some guy who broke in and drowned in the pool. That's it. In 30 years, hundreds of single-family units, 4,000 apartment units, that's it. So I don't like those books. It's just attorneys trying to scare you into buying their LLCs, and then they want you to do series LLCs, and they want you to do all this crap that does nothing but make them massive amounts of money. So, Patty, what you're going to do is you're going to wait until we reopen, and then I'm going to give you an attorney that will sit down with you for free, and in about 10 minutes tell you every part of the LLC that you need to know. Do not spend 16 hours reading a book on LLCs when that guy in 10 minutes can tell you what you need to know for your particular situation. Then he goes, why did you use a green elephant? Well, the green, to me, and if you do the research, you can find this out too, every color means something different to human beings, and it means something different to every human being, but there's averages. And green for the average person means progress. It means moving forward, like a green light towards your goals. So that was why we chose the green. The yellow we chose because it goes nicely with green. And then we chose the elephant as our logo because it represents family, discipline, commitment, determination. The elephant is probably, I also picked it because it's my favorite animal, but its family life is comparable to human families in shockingly multiple ways. And their commitment to their family, their determination to survive, that's why I chose it. Okay, now let's move on to what I promised you, which is talking about how to invest passively in apartment complexes with the Real Wealth Academy students who are also syndicators. If you don't know what a syndicator is, it's the person who puts the deal together. They syndicate the deal. That's an oversimplification. They're sometimes called, what's another word for it? Leaders of the deal, primary investor. But I use the word syndicator so people know that this is a legal matter You've got to have a PPM, private placement memorandum. You've got to follow the SEC's rules to the letter. These guys know that material. These guys and gals know, they've already got attorneys. Some of them have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on attorneys already to be able to do this. And they have successful track records. In other words, you take Robert Martinez with almost 4,000 units, that's a pretty good track record. Has he had a break-even deal? I don't know. I would gamble that he did, but I know that he's had way, way more 100%, 125% rate of return deals. Great track record. So people are constantly emailing me, asking me, how do I invest with those guys or women? I'm recruiting a female syndicator right now who is amazing. But the way to do it is, first, I'm going to tell you this straightforward. You cannot partner with those Real Wealth Academy syndicators or go into their deals until after you've graduated my weekend class. And the reason is they don't want you in their deals if you're not willing to invest in your education. You have to know what you're doing before they'll allow you to put money up into their deals. Why? Why don't they just take, well, money's money. Let's take the money. Absolutely not. Who do you think is going to be the bigger pain? Somebody who knows what they're doing, or somebody who listened to 2 radio shows and put money up into an apartment complex? You guessed it. People who won't invest in themselves are a pain in the rear. And I don't have time for it. These syndicators don't have time for it. We need people in our deals that know what they're doing and they understand the deal. All right, this is the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. You can call me at 281-558-KSEV. You're listening to AM 700, the voice of Texas. Thanks for listening. 70% of the millionaires in America used real estate as their main investment vehicle. Listen to the GetRealWealth.com radio show to find out how you can do it too. Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. right here on AM 700 KSEV, the voice of Texas. Welcome back to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. Phone lines are open. If you've got a question for me, don't worry about the subject matter I'm covering. Call me at 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV. You may also email me. It's asksteve@getrealwealth.com. asksteve@getrealwealth.com. So we're talking about passively investing in the deals that my members are putting together. And I put up the first requirement, which is you've got to graduate that weekend class. Because in that weekend class, I'm screening people to see who is even eligible and qualified to go in those deals. I'm looking, I'll tell you this right now, I'm looking for people with $60,000 or more that they're willing to commit to a real estate deal. They can have a lot more money than that, but you've got to be willing to put up at least 60 to get into your first deal. Now, why would people do that? Because we're making, as if you heard yesterday's show, I described how we're making a 200% rate of return using our business model over a 5-year period, that's about, what's 200 divided by 5? That's about a 40% annual rate of return. Is that right? Yeah, 40%. You got to ask yourself, are you getting a 40% rate of return on your money? You're not, are you? You're getting 2, 3, 7, and you think you're a hero when you get 7. The sad thing is you're actually making less than that, because you're not subtracting the interest that you're paying on your home. So if you've got $500,000 in the bank and you're making 7%, but you owe $500,000 on your home, then you're paying 6%, guess what you're really making on your money? 1%. I know that's painful. A lot of you have never done that math, but you're making 1% on your money. That's not a good way to live, and it's certainly never going to get you in the financial position that you want to be in. But when you're making 40%, it's different, isn't it? It's life-changing. You're not talking about twice as much rate of return. You're talking about 40 times as much rate of return. It's insane. So what I'm doing in that 2-day class while I'm training everyone, and I want to be very careful because some people will think, well, if you're screening, are you really teaching? And the answer is absolutely. But I'm looking for the top 20%. Remember, I always tell you, I love the Pareto rule, and that is that 80% of the results are going to come from the top 20% of the people. So I'm looking for that top 20%. Everybody in the room is already in the top 30 or 40, or they wouldn't be in the room. They wouldn't have had the courage to join up. They wouldn't have had the desire to join up. So just by being in that room, you're in the top 30 or 40% of the nation. But I'm looking for really the top 5% of the nation for them to upgrade into our advanced program. There's actually two of them. There's an advanced single-family program and an advanced multifamily program. And that one includes commercial as well as residential. It's called the ComRes membership, commercial and residential. And the way that we find those people is, one, we've got that screening, which is you got to have 60 or more. And two, it's the people with the burning desire. And it's hard to explain. I'm just able to attract, I'm able to figure out who those people are by communicating with them, training them, seeing their responses, and those are the people that I invite to upgrade. It's not a science. I guess it is a science, partially a science and partially an art. I used to be able to go into a bar and I could pick out the trust fund babies. I won bet after bet after bet. I think I did it 4 or 5 times. That guy's a trust fund baby. That girl's a trust fund baby. And sure enough, I won the bet 4 or 5 times. I lost a few times too. But I can pick people out because when you look at a trust fund baby, they're listless. There's no purpose in their eyes. Now, let me be careful. Are all trust fund babies that way? No. Some trust fund babies, they get given $5 million. They immediately take action. They start their own charity. They start their own company. So not everybody that gets a trust fund is ruined, but some are. That's why I would never give my kids a ton of money when I pass. I'm going to give them a lot of real estate, but they're not allowed to sell it. I'll go into that on another show. I'm doing the same thing Ben Franklin did. He put restrictive covenants in those deals so that the only thing that they can do is sell it to buy more real estate. In other words, if they're making $100,000 a year off of the real estate I give them, and they want to sell it, they have to go buy something that produces more than $100,000 a year. So that's how they make more money. They keep the real estate, but they live off the cash flow. Again, I'll talk about that on another show in detail. So anyway, I'm looking for that top 20%, which is really the top 5% of our group, that want to and have a burning desire to make these rates of return and to achieve financial independence as quickly as possible. One of the probably probably the number one reason that people upgrade is because they want to go faster. In other words, why do people join and take my $2,000 weekend class? Because I can cut 5 to 10 years off of the learning process in a weekend class. Is that not worth $2,000? To save 5 to 10 years of your life by going to a class, is that not worth $2,000? You bet it's worth $2,000. So, and that was the one I offered last week. I gave it away for $500. Sounds crazy now that I say it out loud. So, once a person is in that 2-day class, I'm trying to get to know, I want to get to know everyone, of course, but I'm trying to find those top people who are going to excel, that have 60,000 or more, and get them to upgrade. It's that simple. So when you think about, hey, how do I get into these deals? There it is. You've got to get to that weekend class. You've got to have $60,000 or more. And the upgrade fee, I haven't even mentioned that. The upgrade fee is $10,000. Now, some of you go, ooh, $10,000. Let me tell you something. That's nothing in this marketplace. $20,000 is the minimum in other companies. $60,000 is mid-range. There's one guy who charges $100,000 for the same thing. $100,000 per person for the same thing. And you want to know something? He's worth it. Because how many of you paid $50,000, $60,000 to go to college to learn how to get a job? You did, didn't you? Would you not pay, if you could go back in time, would you not up that? You paid $60,000 to get a degree. Would you not up that $40,000 to learn how to be a millionaire by the time you're 25? Every one of you would, I guarantee it. If you believed it, of course. If you believed this guy, and he has a track record, he's a great guy, you would do it. You'd hop in that time machine, go back 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it is, and instead of going to college, give him the $100,000, and then 5 years later, you're a millionaire. Because I guarantee that degree didn't make you a millionaire, did it? It's not designed to. They imply it will, which, oh, that drives me nuts when I see these commercials on TV. Success. Success. What? You just got him a job. That's not success. That's getting a job. It's not going to give you the results that you want. It's important, don't get me wrong, it's important to have a job and have that stream of income, but that's not what's going to make you rich. It's not what's going to give you more time with the family. It's not what's going to give you more time for romance and fitness. You got to have that second stream of income for that. So anyway, and when a person has $60,000 and they put $10,000 into Real Wealth Academy, they become eligible to go into these deals with my syndicators. And the syndicators won't even let you in their deals if you don't do that. Why? Again, as I said before, they want you educated. They want good, high-quality partners that understand the ups and downs of apartment investing, or they don't want you in their deal. It's that simple. And think about it. You take the other $50,000, and your very first deal, 2 years later, you make $50,000 back. You made your $10,000 back times 5 in 2 years. Who cares? You know, to be a millionaire, you have to make millionaire-like decisions. You have to think like a millionaire. I spent $30,000 on books and CDs before I ever bought my first single-family house. before I even flipped my first single-family house or wholesaled my first single-family house. I invested $30,000. You know why? Because I was already a millionaire in my brain. You've got to think that way too. You've got to. As I don't know why I have so much trouble with this guy's name. Grant Cardone says, you've got to make decisions like you're already where you're trying to be. You've got to make decisions quickly and effectively in, which this is redundant, I know, in short periods of time. You've got to. Because millionaires don't take 6 months to make a decision. They take 5 minutes. That's why they're millionaires. It's just a characteristic of successful people that they make decisions quickly. And another characteristic is they very seldom change their decisions. I'll discuss that on another show, but they make decisions quickly and they are very, very rarely change their decisions. Okay, this is the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. Phone lines are open for one more segment at 281-558-5738. That's 281-558-KSEV. You're listening to AM 700, the voice of Texas. Thanks for listening. Did you know that 95% of Americans fail to retire by age 65 and 36% are dead? The good news is that here at the GetRealWealth.com radio show, we know what the other 5% are doing. 70% of them own real estate. We are a mentoring group for new and experienced real estate investors. We will show you how to build a second stream of income that will allow you to retire at any age. I will be explaining this at a free 2-hour introductory workshop this month. If you would like to attend, please go to GetRealWealth.com. That's GetRealWealth.com. Welcome back to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. Phone lines are open for one final segment, so if you've got a question, please call me now. If you're a little shy, use a fake name or email me. It's asksteve@getrealwealth.com. asksteve@getrealwealth.com. The phone number, if you do have the courage to call, is 281-558-5738. That's 281-558-KSEV. Now, let's go to a good friend of the show, Carl. Carl is asking, do you see a lot of landlords and renters in trouble right now with the shutdown? I don't see a lot of landlords in big trouble. I see a lot of landlords complaining because, 10% of their renters aren't paying. In other words, normally we're collecting 90, 95%. This is on our apartment. 90 to 95%. Our occupancy is 90 to 95%. Well, 10% of the people aren't paying, so it's like a real occupancy of 85%, if that makes sense to you. So, yes, they're complaining, but they're working with their tenants, setting up payment plans, setting up later payments. In other words, some people are not going to be able to pay till the 15th. Some people are going to have paid double next month. Some people are going to pay an extra $150 a month till they get caught up, which is what I did with a lot of people after Harvey. Are the renters in trouble? Yeah, that 10%. Yeah, they're in trouble, but because we're all in this together, they're not in big trouble. Because any quality landlord, and if they're a member of one of the big groups here in Houston, they're a quality landlord. There's four major real estate investor mentor groups, and they're teaching good landlord policies. So we're going to be working with these people, and we're all going to get out of this. It sucks, but we're all going to get out of it. So in answer to your question, Carl, do you see a lot of landlords in trouble? Not too much. Do you see a lot of renters? Not too much. Trouble. They're in trouble, but not too much, because the landlords and the renters are going to work together. because I hate to say it again, but we're in this together. How can you be mad at somebody for not paying their rent? First off, you don't get mad anyway. It does no good. But especially in these times, good Lord, if you get mad at your renter for not being able to pay, you've got a attitude problem. Don't do that. Start working with them. Understand the plight they're in, and get your money. They want to give it to you, but you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip, I think is the phrase. So work with them. Get that money. It may take you 2 months, may take you 6 months to get it, but you'll get it. The other thing that people are doing right now is sending people to charities. This is what I do when I've got a good tenant. In other words, they've been with me for a year, 2 years. They come to me and go, man, I lost my job. I send them to Section 8 housing. I send them to churches. I send them to charities that sometimes help. So there's resources for them, and our property managers know where to send them. If you're a single family and you're managing them yourself, you need to learn those places. And so I hope that answers your question, Carl. Okay, here's a bigger pockets situation, I'm going to call it. If you're not familiar with Bigger Pockets, it's the biggest real estate forum, I would have to say, in the world. It's phenomenal. I learn stuff there every day. But as with any forum, there's misinformation because there's nobody watching it. It comes out and it's there. Now, generally, it's policed by other forum members. In other words, I'll give you an example. There was a question. The first answer was so wrong that I started typing. By the time I finished typing and hit send, when I went back to the page, there were 5 other people that had corrected that answer too. So 6 of us, within 5 minutes, corrected the answer. But what if that guy only looks once and sees the wrong answer? It's a problem. This is why I keep saying a forum does not replace being a member of a real estate investor group. It does not replace having a mentor. It's just a supplement. It's kind of like the icing on the cake. And it's fun. I really enjoy it. But this guy got some really bad information. I'm not going to read this because literally it's a full internet page. Bottom line is he was told, and this one really irks me, leave rehabs to the professionals. Don't buy real estate that you need to rehab. Are you kidding me? Are you telling me that every single person throughout history that did a rehab successfully had rehab experience? It's such a ridiculous question that there's no way to answer it. You're probably flabbergasted like I am. That's ridiculous. Leave it to the professionals. No, the answer is become a professional. Become a professional. Remember what Tony Robbins says. To have more out of life, you have to become more. So what I told the guy was this. I said, make yourself a professional. To have more, you need to be more. Join a local real estate investor group. A forum does not replace that. Then take a course or 2 on real estate investing and get a mentor. Second point, he brings up paying cash for a property. So I go on. Never pay cash for a property as a rule. That reduces your cash on cash rate of return by 50 to 75%. Leverage is one of the keys to wealth. One of them. Then he went on to say, well, how long does a rehab take? Well, in my past experience, a good contractor can get about $7,000 worth of work done a week. So if you've got a $21,000 rehab, it's going to be 3, a little bit more, a little bit less weeks. Then finally, I told him, you can do it. Wait until we're released from the COVID response and buy something as soon as possible. Don't let fear paralyze you. Take action even if you are scared. Because if you're not scared a little on your first deal, you're one brave SOB. So it's natural to be scared, but do it anyway. If you think that I'm not scared every time I do a deal, you're not in reality. I mean, every apartment complex I buy, I think this is the one that's going to take me down. Because there's just negativity in everybody's brain. You know, I've done everything I can to beat it out of me, but it's still there. But I do it anyway. It's like, I think it was the Red Badge of Courage, if you remember that book, where he basically said, you're so brave, and he responded, no, I was scared to death. Any hero from Iraq, Afghanistan, 9/11, those heroes, you can call them brave all you want, but I guarantee every one of them was scared to death. It's okay to be scared, but control your fear and do it anyway. Okay, phone lines are open just 2 more minutes. If you've got a question, you've got to call right now, 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV. All right, next question is pretty simple. It's the question of, can I use a commercial mortgage to buy multiple single-family houses? The answer is yes. Have I ever done it? No. Would I ever do it? Probably not. The interest rate is much higher. The closing costs are higher. It's just not worth it. You're allowed 10 Fannie Mae loans. Those are 30-year fixed interest, the lowest interest you can get, generally the lowest closing costs of any loan out there. And if you're below 80%, in your financing below 80%, which you should be, you shouldn't be buying anything that requires mortgage insurance. That means you paid too much for the property. Just use single loans, 1 per house. And when you buy an apartment complex, 1 loan for the entire apartment complex. So I hope that helps. I don't recommend those commercial loans, doing multiple houses under 1 loan, because the interest rate is much higher, and the closing costs that I've seen are higher as well. Okay, last question before we end the show. Looking to purchase a 2-bedroom single-family home. Thoughts? Hey, I've had a few 2-bedrooms. They leased a little bit slower. In other words, my 3 bedrooms would lease in 7 to 10 days, and it would take me 15, 20 days to lease a 2-bedroom. But I didn't care. I mean, it's not that big a difference. However, I would not have a portfolio full of 2 bedrooms. Go with the most popular, which is the 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage home, 1,500 to whatever, as big as you want, but try to stay up at 1,500 square feet or more. All right, this has been the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. You can email me at asksteve@GetRealWealth.com.
This has been the GetRealWealth.com radio show. Please remember that this show is for entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as legal, tax, or investing advice. Always get a professional opinion before making any investment decision. To find out about the mentoring and consulting at Real Wealth Academy, visit GetRealWealth.com and attend one of our free introductory workshops on real estate investing. That's GetRealWealth.com. Thanks for listening and have a great rest of your day.